Opa, não vos vi aí, olá! Espero que estejam todos e todas, né? Todos bem. E bem-vindos a mais um episódiozinho de Vampyr! No último episódio fomos mortos por um vampiro, que depois matámo-lo também, porque isto é assim. Camas fazem, camas pagam. E ficámos a conhecer aqui mais um bocadinho deste hospital. E aparentemente ainda ninguém percebeu que o Dr. Jonathan Reed tem este aspecto, né? Mas pronto. Vamos então. Nós já temos aqui a cura para a fadiga. Por isso vamos então... Já agora? Este é de quem? Dr. Tippett, Dr. Strickland, Dr. Aykroyd. Nós já temos a nossa cura para a fadiga. Vamos então curar a fadiga. Só que, entretanto, também encontramos a carteira e eu não sei onde é que está o dono da carteira. Já falei aqui com toda a gente que dava para falar. E, no entanto, ainda não encontrei ninguém. Eu... Sentidos, sim. Isto eu sei. Aqui é a Dona Thelma Hawcroft. Eu descobri uma pista nova sobre ela já antes de gravar. Já depois de acabar o vídeo. E eu vou-vos mostrar o que é que era.
How are you tonight?
I need blood, Doctor. Warm, rich, vibrant blood.
Foi esta aqui. Conte-me sobre Thomas Elwood.
Tell me, Thelma, why do you feel so attached to Mr. Elwood? Why him?
I'm not sure, Doctor. I think we have a bond of some sort. We've both suffered so much. He's the only mortal I find interesting.
Pretende torná-lo um vampiro?
Do you plan to make him a vampire too?
Of course not. How could I inflict my curse on anybody else? I'm not that cruel, Doctor.
Você está envolvida com alguém?
Would you say you and Mr. Elwood are romantically involved?
No. No, Thomas is a delicate soul. Even though he disguises it. But I am not the woman he needs. No, for I am a vampire, Doctor.
Pronto, foi esta a pista que nós recebemos. LT. Opa, nós temos ali enfeitiçar no LB. Pressione para mais informações LT. Ou check-up médico. Ok, saudável. Relativamente, sim. Tirando a mioleira.
I'll leave you, Mistress of the Dark, to your nocturnal activities.
Ora bem. Então, o nosso objetivo está a 18 metros. Estou aqui com uma vontade de espirrar que Nossa Senhora. Está aqui. Será ela?
Finally, you've returned, Doctor. Did you find anything of value?
Yes, nurse.
You've worked your first miracle, Doctor. Now, this patient here needs immediate treatment.
Duty calls. When the storm has passed, I'll show you how to mix the remedy yourself with the same basic ingredients.
Many thanks, Doctor. When you've finished, you ought to report to Dr. Swansea in his office. He's been looking for you. Seemed pressing.
Doenças. Doenças reduzem a qualidade do sangue de um cidadão. Trate-os com um remédio adequado. Fale com o paciente no quarto atrás de Dorothy e verifique o quadro clínico dele.
I'm all right.
Good evening, Mr. Goswick. How are you?
I'm okay.
Tinha aparecido ali qualquer coisa. Pois ele tem fadiga, exato.
I have to go now, sir. But don't hesitate to contact me if you need any help.
Good evening, sir.
A ver
Good
se
evening,
aparece outra
Mr.
vez.
Goswick. How are you?
I'm okay.
Não consegui perceber, mas pronto. Requer pistas, mas continua sobre
Tell me
você.
about yourself, Mr. Goswick.
I don't want to talk, Doctor.
Ok, eu não quero. Sua vida em Londres. Muita dor de garganta?
How painful is your throat, Mr. Goswick?
So painful I'd rather not talk at all, Doctor.
Descanse.
I'll let you get some rest, then.
Good evening, sir. Doctor.
Vamos falar aqui com a mãe dele.
Good evening, Doctor. How is my son doing?
Isto tudo requer pista. Sua vida em Londres. Reclamações da recepção.
What can you tell me about yourself,
Oi,
Mrs.
enganei-me
Goswick?
Not much to say. Just take care of my Mortimer and I'll cover all the expenses. That's all that matters.
Exatamente, você é tão rica?
Are you really that rich? Most of the patients here are of a more humble origin, if I may say so.
Yes, thanks to my husband. May he rest in peace. I can cover any needed medical expenses.
Tu mataste o teu marido, não foi para ficares com a massa dele. Não foi, sua malandra. O que faz da vida?
May I ask if you have an occupation, Mrs. Goswick?
I'm a teacher by profession. I teach young women who are more ambitious about their futures than their families.
Reclamações sobre a recepção aqui?
What do you think of your reception here? Any complaints?
I have had the uttermost reservations about this hospital since we arrived. But we had no other choice, considering the state of emergency.
Is there something in particular that's bothering you?
Some of the staff were not especially welcoming. I suspect they're not accustomed to dealing with patients of such social standing.
Conte-me sobre a sua chegada, visto que já descobrimos uma pista nova.
Tell me more about your arrival at the Pembroke Hospital. What gave you such a bad first impression?
The ambulance driver was quite rude, for a start. And that nurse, Miss Hawkins, seems to have quite a dubious attitude.
What do you mean?
She managed to secure a bed for my son despite the epidemic. It was a relief, but it wasn't cheap.
Opa, então nós temos aqui uma enfermeira corrupta, é? Ela lhe cobrou?
She charged you for a bed?
Yes, and I paid without question, considering the urgency of the situation.
Eu sei como se sente.
I share your concern, Mrs. Goswick. Be sure that I'll talk to the people involved.
I don't expect compensation, Dr. Reed. But I'm aware such behavior would not be tolerated in other hospitals.
Ah, vai para o caraças, mulher. Isto não é um hospital corrupto.
Goodbye, Mrs. Goswick.
Ah, para o caraças, mulher. Com o Dr. Reed aqui, ninguém escapa.
Good evening, Mr. Goswick. How are you?
I'm okay.
Requer pistas sobre a sua internação.
Why did your mother have you hospitalized here? She seems convinced this is a bad hospital.
My mother just wants the best for me. She won't rest while I'm here. She'd go all the way to hell and back to help me.
Você está em boas mãos?
Pembroke Hospital may look unorthodox, but rest assured you're in good hands here.
It's not me you have to convince, Dr. Reed. It's my mother.
Sua mãe está incomodando?
Is your mother bothering you? As your doctor, I can ask her to leave you alone if you would prefer.
That's tempting, Doctor. But you have no idea what my mother is capable of. She would tie herself to my bed if you asked her to leave.
Nossa Senhora.
I have to go now, sir. But don't hesitate to contact me if you need any help.
Good evening, sir. Doctor.
Ora bem, falo com o Dr. Edgar Swansea. Ainda não encontrei a... Quem és tu?
Dr. Reed, may I help you?
Dorothy. Ah, ok.
I'll see you later, Nurse Crane.
Yeah, Dorothy Crane. Ok. Tentação de sangue. Lembre-se, sangue dos cidadãos concede um grande bónus de experiência. Procure por cidadãos do seu mesmo nível de enfeitiçar ou inferior e escolha com cuidado. Antes de falar com o Dr. Swansea, Pipa, está aqui. Anda cá, mulher. Anda cá, faz favor.
Good evening, Nurse Hawkins.
Good evening, Dr. Reed.
Faz favor. Não deu. Não dá aqui. Calma aí, como está a situação
How
por
would you
aqui? Deixa eu
describe
ver.
the situation at the Pembroke Hospital?
It's serious. The flu is wreaking havoc amongst the staff and patients. We are running out of everything.
Ok, não tenho aqui mais...
Goodbye, Nurse Hawkins.
É porque visto que apareceu ali que eu tinha uma pista nova sobre a doutora... a enfermeira Hawkins. Não sei o que aconteceu. Edgar Swansea, ainda bem.
Please, Jonathan, come in. Fascinating, is it not? In the last decade, so many mysteries have been brought to light with our microscopes. The human body, biology's penultimate frontier. The more we explore its boundaries, the less we're able to trace a clear line between life and death. You, my friend, have a foot in both countries. The view must be vertiginous.
It's at least as vertiginous as chatting about vampires with you, I would say.
This must be all so new to you. This area of town, the hospital, a brand new life. How stimulating it must be.
I wish I could share your enthusiasm, Dr. Swansea, but my condition defies scientific categorization. Undead? Unalive? Immortality defies logic.
I cannot express my thrill at this serendipitous turn of events. The world's most eminent specialist in blood transfusions, a vampire. One might say a gift from heaven.
Sou paradoxo em pessoa. Yeah, vou ser brincalhão.
There is an absurd poetry to my situation. Physician, heal thyself.
Forgive me. I've been an admirer of your work for a long time, and now you are so much more than a brilliant physician. And please, call me Edgar.
Não precisas te desculpar.
There is no need to apologize, Edgar. You offered me sanctuary when I had none.
Very well. I have a task for you, Jonathan. Something that will require all your newfound skills.
Please, go on.
The Pembroke only survives through the generosity of our benefactors. Unfortunately, our main donor has found herself in a bit of a bind. Now, if you could help her out...
A spokesman or politician is what you need. That's not my calling. And until I come to understand what has happened to me, I require discretion.
Discretion is in order, Jonathan. Lady Ashbury has recently received rather indelicate correspondence that, if revealed, would jeopardize her position.
And you would like me to eradicate this threat?
By the stole, of course not. I would just like you to pay her a visit. Her ladyship is certainly near the tents outside, tending the sick. You can't miss her. Look for someone impossibly delicate.
Accepted. I'll see what kind of trouble Lady Ashbury is in.
Ok. Então, pelos vistos, este hospital sobrevive graças a doações, né? Por isso nós temos de falar aqui com a pessoa que mais apoio oferece ao hospital, esta Dona Ashbury. Já está aqui embaixo. Esta é a Dorothy, certo? Certo. Dorothy Crane. O que é que me estava a chamar? Ninguém me estava a chamar, pelos vistos.
Good evening, Mr. Fiddick.
Good evening, Dr. Reed. Any news about my operation?
Está saudável.
Have you heard talk of any blackmail here at the hospital?
No, nothing.
Are you satisfied with your treatment here?
Well, it's clear that I've chosen a bad time to be injured. Forgive my bluntness, but you seem overwhelmed by cases of the flu.
I won't lie to you about it. I'm afraid we are.
Are you sure you don't want to operate yourself, Dr. Reed? I have the feeling you're very capable, and your colleagues seem to think so too.
In other circumstances, you would be right. But for now, I don't think I can take on the responsibility. My apologies.
Pá.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Fiddick. I'll see you later.
Quem me dera conseguir fazer o tratamento para esta pessoa. Coitado, bem que precisa, né? Ainda bem! Deixa-me só aqui verificar mais pacientes. Sim, com aqueles já falei. Tu.
Good evening, Dr. Strickland.
And good evening to you, Dr. Reed. Can I be of any help?
Yep.
Have you heard any talk of blackmail going on in the hospital?
If you're running some official inquiry, you had better question the patients. They know more than the staff, especially old Miss Jones.
Senhorita Jones.
What do you think of Dr. Ackroyd's aversion to modern medical methods?
It's a shame he's so narrow-minded. Dr. Swansea taught me that science is about exploring uncharted territory. I'm convinced that's true.
With the influenza and all that's going on, you should put your differences aside, don't you think? Why is it so difficult to work together?
I believe that if Dr. Ackroyd had been the one to discover the transfusion process, he would be the first to recommend its use.
So you believe it's just a question of jealousy and pride?
Dr. Ackroyd is as proud as he is blinded by his obsolete concept of medical science.
Exatamente. Eu estou em nível 4.
Please, could you tell me something about yourself?
I'm a great admirer of your work concerning blood transfusion, Dr. Reed. I run my own experiments. I'm convinced it's the future.
Hoje agora, fala-me sobre
I
isso.
based my technique on my mentor's research. He helped me perfect my method. What is yours?
I'd rather not talk about it. For now, it's just theories and first approach. My process is purely experimental and unsuccessful.
As long as you're cautious and methodical, you may remain empty-handed, but you won't fail.
You're not the first one to warn me, but I am convinced knowledge is the main weapon against the ravages of this epidemic.
Gosto deste médico. Gosto imenso deste médico. Estou a gostar dele.
Tell me more about your willingness to experiment with new medical techniques.
Harvey Fiddick is a patient suffering from a severe injury that could cripple him if not treated correctly. I'm convinced your blood transfusion technique could help him.
What is it you really want? To save him, or to prove your point?
Fair question. I want nothing but to save my patient, Dr. Reed. Especially since I know Mr. Fiddick's story.
Já agora, conta uma história dele.
Tell me Mr. Fiddick's story.
Our first diagnosis was compromised because Mr. Fiddick lied to us about the real origin of his injury. He first claimed it was an accident.
But why would he hide such crucial information from us?
Because he is a proud father, ashamed of putting his children at risk because of his own negligence.
Este é o carpinteiro, então.
This personal involvement could also appear to be a lack of impartiality. You must know that a good surgeon must remain neutral.
I agree. But that does not excuse Dr. Ackroyd's behavior, a man who did not even take time to converse with his patient.
Do you think keeping his distance was a mistake?
All I know is that I'm taking care of human beings with desires, hopes and fears. Not some biological machine comprised of blood, bones and flesh.
Epá, estou a gostar cada vez mais deste Dr. Strickland.
Goodbye, Dr. Strickland.
Admite os erros, admite os erros, é uma pessoa humilde. Estou a gostar dele, sim senhor. Estou a gostar deste Dr. Strickland. Filho, anda cá.
Good evening, Mr. Fiddick.
Good evening, Dr. Reed. Any news about my operation?
Porque se sente culpado pela sua lesão.
Tell me about your injury, Harvey. Why do you feel so guilty about it?
My wife died because of me. And now I may lose everything because I've been careless enough to hurt myself. What an arsehole.
Você sofreu propositadamente?
You can't hold yourself responsible for your injury, Mr. Fiddick. Unless you tried to hurt yourself.
Of course I didn't hurt myself. But I can't work until my arm is fixed. My children need to eat, Doctor.
How could your job be responsible for your wife's death?
I was working a double. She went out to bring me a hot meal and got caught in a German bomb raid.
Ih, caramba, sobre a morte da sua esposa.
Tell me more about the death of your wife, Harvey.
1915. I was in the army, building workshops for the Royal Flying Corps. Helen was happy I wasn't sent to the front.
What happened?
The Germans sent Zeppelins to bomb the construction site, but they missed their target. My wife was bringing my dinner when the bombs fell.
Os teus filhos estão bem?
How are your children after losing their mother?
They were smaller then. The only good thing about this is my Helen didn't bring them with her that night.
Tantos morreram nos bombardeiros.
I'm sorry for your loss. So many died during the bombings. I served in France and witnessed the carnage there.
I would like to say that she didn't suffer. Truth is, I have no idea. I just know that I'm all that me kids have. Poor little bleeders.
É, coitado, porra.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Fiddick. I'll see you later.
You always knew the words to calm the children, Helen. As for me, what a blunder.
Deixa cá ver se este só...
Good evening,
tem
Mr.
alguma coisa para me
Goswick.
dizer.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Have you heard rumors about blackmail in this hospital?
No?
Já tenho aquilo. Ok.
I have to go now, sir. But don't hesitate to contact me if you need any help.
Good evening, sir.
Vamos cá ver esta dona.
Good evening, Doctor. How is my son doing?
Have you heard rumors of blackmail going on in this hospital?
Dr. Reed, are you trying to take advantage of me?
Of course not, Mrs. Goswick. I'm just curious.
Well, go be curious somewhere else, please.
Uau.
Goodbye,
És raio de
Mrs.
luz, tu.
How long must I wait, damn it? Blaming me will not further your agenda, sir. How long's it going to take to fix me properly? A month?
Don't waste
A
your time
year?
with me.
You have the right to disapprove of our methods, and you will kindly apologize when you're feeling better.
É assim mesmo. Exatamente, ele tem o direito de reclamar. E depois de agradecer quando... Tu aí.
I'm quite busy right now, Dr. Reed.
E eu vou dar uma chapada se não te calas.
Tell me, Waverly, what do you think of Dr. Strickland's enthusiasm for his experimental research?
Strickland is playing with his patients' lives for pride and glory. Now that, sir, is unethical.
Are you thinking about something in particular?
Harvey Fiddick needs delicate surgery. I believe we should stick to the usual procedure, but my young colleague obviously disagrees.
Você está cego pela sua rivalidade?
And are you not afraid that your rivalry with Strickland may be blinding you?
Rivalry? I guess you could call it that. But I will never be childish enough to let my personal feelings affect my judgment.
Não sei não. Porque quero fazer esta cirurgia.
Why do you wish to lead this surgery?
I strongly believe that Mr. Fiddick should not be butchered to test an unproven procedure.
Assumirá as consequências.
If you are going to lead this surgery, I'm trusting you to assume the consequences of your actions, whatever the result.
I'm not the kind of man who runs away from his responsibilities, Dr. Reed.
É bom que não.
There is no need for you to be looking over my shoulder.
É bom que não.
Have you heard about any blackmail going on in this hospital?
Blackmail? Nonsense.
I don't know what you've heard about me, but I have already proved my value as a practitioner.
I don't question your skills, Dr. Reed, but your motive. Is it money, fame, or are you truly dedicated?
And what exactly is that supposed to mean?
I served in the war just like you. But unlike you, I did not use the wounded to play the modern sorcerer.
Be careful what you insinuate, Dr. Ackroyd.
I only want you to admit you used those men to improve your theories.
I don't see any reason why I should justify my actions to you.
That's true, Dr. Reed. The only judge has to be yourself. The question is, are you judging yourself hard enough?
Eu vou-te dizer uma coisa, Ackroyd. Eu vou-te matar. Eu vou-te matar.
It seems you have bad memories of your military service.
I refuse to see this industrial slaughter as scientific progress. War only reveals the worst in men.
We can at least agree on something, Dr. Ackroyd.
Exato. Pronto, lá está, exatamente.
Thank you for your time. We'll talk later.
Ackroyd, eu vou-te matar. Quem és tu? A pipa.
You are going to reveal all your secrets to me, even the darkest thoughts in your heart.
My blood and soul. They belong to you now.
The life running in your veins. This dead flesh needs it.
Oh, please spare me, Dark Queen. Spare your obedient slave.
Ok. O que é que se passa aqui?
Good evening, Mr. Elwood.
Evening, Dr. Reed.
Nossa senhora.
Have you heard rumors of underhand dealings in the hospital?
If you want to know what's going on here, you better talk to Miss Jones. She knows everything. Especially what she shouldn't.
Coitado, bem disseram eles que ele estava completamente desfigurado, né?
Goodbye for now, Mr. Elwood.
Ele disse a senhora Jones.
Good evening, Miss Howcroft. How are you tonight?
I need blood, Doctor. Warm, rich, vibrant blood.
Ok.
Have you heard of any blackmailing going on within these walls?
I have no time for mortal games. My secrets are beyond their comprehension, Dr. Reed.
Ok.
I'll leave you, Mistress of the Dark, to your nocturnal activities.
I wish I could be sick again. Feel my blood boil with fever.
Peço desculpa pela interrupção,
Goodbye, Mrs. Goswick.
mas deve de ser. A ver se eu consigo curar este...
Good evening, Mr. Goswick. How are you?
I'm okay.
Fadiga. Curar com tratamento para a fadiga. Sim, eu tenho 2.
Do you need any help?
I'm afraid I may, sir. I don't mean to be a burden.
Ok, já percebi.
You are not a burden, sir. Healing you is my responsibility.
And you have my gratitude for that.
Fixe. Este já está curado, aparentemente. Exato. Está em recuperação. Ok. Ok.
I have to go now, sir. But don't hesitate to contact me if you need any help.
I'm alright. Don't waste your time with me.
Vou ver se eu consigo tratar este já agora. Ver o que é que eu tenho
Good
aqui para
evening,
ele.
Mr. Fiddick.
Good evening, Dr. Reed. Any news about my operation?
Não, aqui não há
Goodbye
nada.
for now, Mr.
Enganei-me,
I'll see you
enganei-me.
later.
Ah,
Good evening, Mr. Fiddick.
Good evening, Dr. Reed. Any news about my operation?
check-up médico. Não, isto é saudável. Não está saudável.
Is there anything else that's bothering you? Can I help in any way?
I'm all right. Considering the state of this place, I should consider myself lucky, I guess.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Fiddick.
Hello again, Dr. Reed. I feel better already. Can I go soon?
Fez amigos desde que chegou. Ah, já agora.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Hampton? I can't help but notice the cross around your neck.
I manage a night asylum for the poor and homeless of the docks. And I try to guide the lost and hesitant on the right path to our Lord.
Por que não usar a cruz contra o William?
Why didn't you use your cross against William Bishop? To repel him somehow?
That's a very strange question, Doctor. A cross is no magical token, if that's what you were trying to say. Not mine, anyway.
Você é um padre?
Are you a priest, Mr. Hampton? A deacon, maybe?
Not at all, Doctor. I'm just a man of faith willing to preach the good word.
Fez alguns amigos?
Have you made friends since you arrived?
Not really, but I recognize Miss Harriet Jones. I knew her when she lived by the docks. That poor woman had such a miserable life.
You never came to see her here at Pembroke? Receiving visits when sick can be an important part of the healing process, you know. We're not just bodies.
You're preaching to the converted now, Doctor. To be truly honest, I thought she was dead. She left the docks many months ago.
Goodbye, Mr. Hampton. We'll talk again later. It's locked.
Está ali outra... Milton Hooks. Olha o carteiro. Anda cá.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. I'm new here.
I've already heard about you, Dr. Reed. I'm Milton Hooks, the ambulance driver for this of a hospital.
That's quite a blunt introduction, Mr. Hooks.
You can call me Milton. I like to speak my mind, Dr. Reed. Perk of the job. Don't judge me, and I won't judge you.
I'm not sure I understand what you're talking about.
Well, I'm no doctor, but I'm pretty sure a gun can't be used as a surgical instrument.
You have a keen eye. I learned to shoot during the war, and have carried one ever since. Old habits die hard.
No need to explain, Dr. Reed. And if you ever need a better gun, remember, I may have something for you.
Ah, então a carteira é dele!
I have some good news, Milton.
What? The epidemic's over?
I retrieved your wallet, with all the money, and a certain picture.
Well, yeah, Pippa Hawkins is my girl. So what? Is it the difference of skin colour that bothers you?
Not at all, Milton.
Good. Please, take this money anyway. To remind you to keep your mouth shut. Not everybody is as broad-minded as you, Dr. Reed.
Fixe. Negociações suspeitas. Vida em Londres.
Why do you have such a mediocre reputation among your colleagues, Milton?
Them. Nobody knows the horrors I've seen since working here. This city was sick long before the epidemic, Dr. Reed.
I know it's a difficult task, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is this not the job you are paid to do?
I've seen babies left to die while their brothers were properly fed.
Nossa.
Underage girls and boys sold to all manner of perverts.
I'm sorry, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, exactly. We lack words. So excuse me if I don't look on the bright side of life.
Já somos dois, Milton, já somos dois. Qual é a sua função aqui? É o condutor da ambulância, ela acabou de dizer. Como está a situação aqui?
How is the situation around here?
You want to hear the situation is all right? It's awful. We lack everything, and it's getting worse every day.
Ok, qual é a sua função?
So what do you do exactly in this hospital? Apart from smuggling guns, I mean.
I've been an ambulance driver since... too long, I guess. I bring sick people here night and day. It's a dirty job, but I get it done. Most of the time.
Situação sanitária.
Since you're on the front line, how is the sanitary situation in this vicinity?
It's a complete disaster. It's even getting dangerous to enter some streets or buildings. Even the locals attack you.
Parece que você já passou por algum mau bocado.
It sounds like things have been a bit rough recently. What's happened?
Yesterday I got attacked by the patient I was bringing here. I escaped through the hospital's garden, but I lost my wallet when I was running.
You left an infected patient outside the hospital? That's incredibly dangerous.
Go there yourself if you want, but be careful, Doctor. I'd rather not bring your dead body back.
Ok, acho que foi aquele na morgue. Relacionamento com a enfermeira Hawkins.
What's going on between you and Nurse Hawkins?
Pippa's tired. Tired of all this Tired of all those corpses piling up. She's as depressed as I am.
Unidos pelo desespero.
During the war, I witnessed a few couples just like you come together in difficult circumstances. It can be very damaging.
Maybe you're right. But we support each other. And that's all that matters.
Realmente sim. Vocês podem ser demitidos. É sim, também pode haver isso.
You do realize you could both get fired. Hospital staff are not meant to have intimate relationships with one another.
Come on, Dr. Reed. Do you know how many rules are broken in this hospital every day just to keep it running? There's nothing wrong with what we're doing.
Tecnicamente não, porra. Negociações suspeitas neste hospital.
Have you heard of any underhand dealings going on in this hospital?
There are a lot of secrets round here. I'm not surprised someone tried to make money from them.
What kind of secrets?
I'm not in the gossip business, Dr. Reed. If you want to know more, you better talk to Harriet Jones. She's the oldest patient here.
Harriet Jones, deve ter sido aquela velhota que eu vi há bocado.
Goodbye, Milton.
Bem, pelo menos encontrei a carteira. Encontrei o dono da carteira. Harriet Jones. Esta velhota é quem ela deve ser. Vamos lá ver se eu encontro, né?
This is no time for self-pity. It is the last thing our patients need.
If only I were young again. Just a dozen years or so.
E já agora?
Good evening, nurse. I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed, the new surgeon here at the Pembroke.
Dr. Swansea has already told us about you, sir. I'm Nurse Gwyneth Brannigan. Welcome to the Pembroke Hospital.
Did he really? It's a good thing I wasn't hoping to keep a low profile.
All members of staff have already read about your new blood transfusion technique. Dr. Swansea made sure of that.
I see. Well, I'm a little surprised, but I suppose I'll just have to deal with this unexpected notoriety.
You must know, blood transfusions are Dr. Swansea's primary subject of research. He is convinced it is the future.
Pistas. Como estão as coisas por aqui?
How are things here?
Not good, to say the least. We're struggling against an invisible enemy, more lethal than any bullet from a gun. It's hard, Doctor.
Ah, sim, faz sentido. O inimigo invisível.
An invisible enemy? Quite a poetic term for a disease, especially from a nurse.
Sorry, Doctor. These last few weeks have been exhausting. We could all do with a good night's sleep.
Acredito.
Do you think this hospital can survive the epidemic?
We are all volunteers here, and we're trying to hold fast, but how do we beat an invisible killer? Some nurses have already resigned.
Ah, isso é que não pode ser, pá. Ah, sobre a equipa.
I'm not familiar with all the staff yet. Perhaps you could help me.
Brilliant professionals, most of them. Dr. Swansea has a gift for recruiting talent.
Most of them? Is there a problem I should know about, nurse?
It would be inappropriate for me to speak ill of a colleague.
Desembuche.
Nurse Brannigan, if you do know something, please tell me. Anything you say will be held in confidence.
No. I may disagree with some conduct, but in the end, everybody is doing their best.
Alguém se destaca?
Is there anyone that stands out?
Well, I have never met someone as dedicated as Dr. Tippett's. He should be a standard for us all here. If only he were younger.
Why should his age be a problem?
I guess it's fair to say he's always pushing himself to the limits. He just doesn't know when to stop and get some rest.
Exato.
Goodbye, nurse. Call me if you need assistance.
Se calhar vou ter de utilizar uma cura para a fadiga também nele. E deve ser este, o Tippett.
Good evening, sir.
So it is true.
Exato.
The famous Dr. Reed has joined us. I can't think of any better news during these terrible times.
Do we know each other?
Actually, yes. We met once before, at the Rockefeller University in New York.
Dr. Tippett, yes, I remember. I was assisting Professor Carell in his research about coronary bypasses. He had nothing but praise for you.
He was also very confident about your future. And look at you now. Eminent surgeon and blood transfusion specialist.
Boatos de negócios estranhos.
Have you heard of any underhand dealings going on in this hospital?
I have no time for such triviality, my dear colleague. We're here to save lives.
Gosti. Gosti.
Do you need any medical assistance yourself, Doctor?
Come on, don't be ridiculous, dear colleague.
Está exausto.
You're exhausting yourself, Corcoran. Maybe you should think about preserving your strength.
No, we must keep on healing all those poor souls. We are the last rampart before chaos. Once more unto the breach.
Sua atitude é responsável.
Your attitude is irresponsible, Doctor. Believe me, I've seen so many medical errors caused by exhaustion during the war.
You're right. This is a war, Dr. Reed, and I don't intend to surrender.
Ah, que teimoso.
What is the Pembroke Hospital situation? And please, speak freely.
This hospital is not exactly the best of London. I'm sure you are used to working in a better environment.
As pessoas são mais importantes, a situação é mesmo em todo lado.
It's more than enough. In any case, the personnel of a hospital are much more important to me than the building.
Don't be misled by appearances, Dr. Reed. This hospital does not lack talented people. It just lacks hope.
Coitado.
What can you tell me about the staff in the hospital?
Some are really good, and others are not so good. But during this troubled period, there is no time for slander. I prefer to focus on the positive character traits.
E agora disseste que não tens esperança ao hospital?
Any opinion about the management?
I don't always agree with Dr. Swansea's reserve, but I must admit he does all he can to keep this facility running during this crisis.
Ah, yes, the burden of command. I was fed up with this concept while serving as a medical officer.
Don't get me wrong. Swansea's a good administrator. I just wish he would get out of his office now and again.
Tell me more about cherished people, then.
Nurse Brannigan is a pearl. She is the most helpful and dedicated nurse I've ever worked with. A clever and cheerful woman.
You really seem to admire her skills.
I'll go even further. If she was a man, she would be a damn fine practitioner.
Yo! Pois acho que nesta altura as mulheres não podiam ser médicas, só podiam ser enfermeiras.
Goodbye, Dr. Tippett.
Eu acho que era isso. Nesta altura, mulheres só podiam ser enfermeiras, não podiam ser mesmo médicas. Gwyneth Brannigan está aqui. Descobrimos uma pista nova sobre ela, então vamos lá ver.
Good evening, Nurse Brannigan.
Good evening, Doctor.
Tippett tem grande consideração para você.
Why does Dr. Tippett claim you're the main reason he keeps working, despite his fatigue?
If it wasn't for him, I probably would have left the Pembroke years ago.
Dr. Tippett does not think of you as just a nurse anymore, does he?
If you're suggesting he's not taking my gender into consideration when it comes to medical practice and knowledge, I really hope he doesn't.
Goodbye, nurse. Call me if you need assistance.
Vamos lá, armazinha, como vão as coisas na cidade grande. Aqui em Brum não vão indo muito bem, parece que a gripe está de volta. Temos vários casos novos de infecção na vizinhança. Lembra-se da senhorita Scheller? Aquela bruxa alcoólatra do terceiro andar? Faleceu há 2 dias. O quarto dela já está ocupado. Meu Deus, teriam que me pagar muito dinheiro para eu dormir na mesma caminha que a mulher que acabou de morrer desta doença. Ok. Está aqui. Contrato.
Good evening, Nurse Hawkins.
Good evening, Dr. Reed.
Pepper, are you sure you want to leave this hospital?
To become a nurse was a little girl's dream. But in the end, I don't feel that useful. I want more. I want to make things change.
Orgulho-se do que conquistou, os pacientes precisam de si.
You should be proud of what you've achieved. This hospital represents hope for many people in need of help.
Maybe you're right. But at the moment, I feel like we're just a cemetery waiting room.
Quer ser mais útil?
What steps are you prepared to take to feel more useful?
I don't know yet. My sister believes that the real fight is in the streets nowadays. Maybe she's right. Maybe this is what I must do.
Não acredita mais no seu juramento.
If you feel that saving lives is not useful enough, perhaps it means that you've lost faith.
On the contrary, my faith has never been stronger. Maybe we are all just too proud to face up to the fact that science cannot compete with God.
E quanto a Milton?
And what about Milton Hooks? Does he share your point of view?
For Milton, any change means more comfort and more peace. I disagree.
Seu relacionamento com Milton.
Pepper, I know you're very close to Milton Hooks.
Yes. Milton Hooks is my man. If you want to report me for that, just feel free, Doctor.
I have no intention of reporting you, Nurse Hawkins. But are you aware of the risks?
The rules say I won't be allowed to work as a nurse anymore. But here at the Pembroke, We break rules all the time.
Is he worth the risk?
Hey, I'm no perfect woman, and Milton is not the finest bloke, but we do our best to get by. That's all any of us can hope for nowadays.
Sim, realmente. Não tem aqui mais nada.
Goodbye,
Ok.
Nurse Hawkins.
Bem, já escutei todos os diálogos aqui desta gente, por isso. E ainda não consegui entrar para o quarto da... aqui desta senhora, que eu tenho...
I cannot enter.
Tenho quase certeza que é este o quarto dela. Ah! Olha quem é ela.
The flu took my dear wife, Emily. I take comfort knowing we'll soon be together again.
Mr. Rainfield, that's no way to talk. You're in good hands here, and we'll be up again soon enough. Now do me a kindness and get some sleep. I'll be back round later.
Your words are kind, the blessings of an angel. You're the sweet, sweet lady of mercy.
Good evening, Dr. Reed. It's a pleasure to see you again. You seem surprised. Dr. Swansea has brought me up to speed concerning your recent appointment to Pembroke Hospital.
You're a the lady who saved me that night, before vanishing into thin air. I remember you from the pub with Dr. Swansea.
Indeed. Allow me to introduce myself formally this time. My name is Lady Ashbury. I remember you well, in spite of the brevity of our encounter.
Apologies. You've taken me by surprise. I'm very happy to see you.
The pleasure is mine, Doctor.
I hope you're more disposed to answer my questions now.
You must have countless questions, but our rather urgent matter first. Swansea has explained. My cover, if you prefer, has been compromised.
Os pacientes têm-lhe causado problemas?
Have any of the patients given you trouble?
These poor souls have so little left to live for. I do my best to ease their pain.
The world would be a better place if it were cared for by women like you.
You make me blush. I am simply a necessary evil.
Jonathan, cuidado.
Pardon my boldness, your ladyship, but I have questions concerning this condition we share.
As a newborn, your hunger for answers is rivaled only by your thirst for blood. But the questions need wait.
I'm a scientist. My trade is in the deciphering of mysteries, and I need information to feed my mind.
I will gladly answer every question you have, but first, prove yourself capable of resolving my predicament without eating the culprit.
Fixe, ok.
Dr. Swansea has commissioned me to be your agent in this matter. You could start by explaining what's amiss.
These past insufferable weeks, I've been the victim of extortion. I've made a first payment, but the blackmailer grows greedy. I must refuse his most recent demands.
Who would be so foolish as to threaten you? A kindred spirit.
Even if it were the case, and I highly doubt it, a vampire would have asked for something more valuable than money. My suspicions lean toward a patient, or their family.
Please continue. Every detail is essential. I'm your man.
My embarrassment in this matter is eclipsed only by my shame at having put the hospital at risk. The threat from our anonymous scoundrel is clear. A list of dates. My visits coinciding with the dates of suspicious patient deaths due to massive blood loss.
Is it true?
Now aren't you the blunt one?
Será mais logo sobre isso.
You are aware that I too thirst for the Scarlet Nectar.
In all honesty, I'm not simply a patron to the hospital. My visits serve a dual purpose. Dr. Swansea has been treating my condition with a revolutionary technique of blood transfusion. It seems you are a specialist in the domain.
I'll take care of it. Do you know where I should start?
If that was the case, I'd settle the matter myself. You could talk to our local gossip, Harriet Jones. Not a pin drops here without her hearing about it.
I'll meet that woman now.
My life, as others know, is in your hands, Dr. Reed. I'm sure of your discretion, but I do fear your powers of persuasion will be put to the test. When this is resolved, I'll be your obligé. I'll answer all questions in regards of your condition.
Ok, então temos de ajudar aqui a nossa amiga primeiro, Dona Ashbury, antes dela nos ajudar a nós. Parece que ela está a ser chantageada por alguém. Mas o problema é que eu não consigo entrar ali dentro, né? Vamos lá ver se já posso entrar. Oh, boa, portas. Para ti também.
What is this? Who are you? Get out of my room.
There's no need for alarm, madam. I'm Dr. Reed, the new surgeon.
Preposterous. Dr. Reed, you say? I don't want some bumbling intern. Where's Dr. Swansea?
Please, calm down, madam. I assure you that I am highly qualified. I'm just back from war duty.
Ha! How brave. Threatening an old defenseless woman. You know how long I've been a patient here? You've picked the wrong fight. I'm Harriet Jones.
Harriet Jones? Indeed. I've been meaning to have a chat with you. You know what goes on here better than any other patient, I gather.
Oh, better than any patient, nurse or doctor. I've seen so many vile undertakings.
I heard there have been some despicable goings-on. Was there a case of blackmail?
Blackmail? Wait. You're investigating something. This isn't a social call. One of those incompetent cunts slit a poor sod's vein.
Chantagista.
You seem to know more about the goings-on here than anyone else. Beware, Miss Jones, in case suspicion should fall on you.
That's it. Blame the old and infirm. I see those little bitches' greedy little eyes. Just waiting for me to pop off they are.
Gosta de fofocas?
If I didn't know better, Miss Jones, I'd be inclined to say you enjoy this type of idle gossip.
God's honest truth, Doctor. It's just the way it is here. Most of these bitches would let you freeze to death before getting you a blanket.
Eita! Não é sobre remédio algum.
I assure you, madam, this is not an investigation into a possible medical error.
Debauchery, then? Nurses Crane, Hawkins, Brannigans, whores, all of them. They can't keep their legs shut. I've seen them scratching slutty sores.
Really? Well, if you have irrefutable proof, I'll not have the staff behaving in such a manner here.
This is your business, Doctor, not mine. But I swear one of the nurses is cavorting with some man on hospital hours.
Thank you for your time, Miss Jones. You've given me something to go on. See you on the next round.
Contra a enfermeira Pippin. Rato no hospital. Pippin, Dorothy Crane and Gwyneth Brannigan.
Miss Jones, greetings. How do we feel?
Again? Waking a poor old woman in her sleep? There isn't a poor life needs saving somewhere?
Now, I need to ask you a few simple questions.
Well, if you really must.
Tal suspeito. Já agora, motivo de internamento, né? Sou um cirurgião.
If you could just tell me why you were admitted.
It's terrible, Doctor. What with a pain in my chest, coughing up blood, and I get awfully tired. Wouldn't be so bad if I hadn't lost my house and all.
I see.
No one comes to visit, you know. Not even my own flesh and blood.
Ei, credo, coitada da mulher. Ah, não lhe posso medicar ainda sequer.
Have you noticed any suspicious comings or goings?
It would be a great deal easier to make a list of things unsuspicious in this house of charlatans.
A equipe parece profissional.
Everyone here is very capable. I have not seen any instances of unprofessionalism.
Thieves and murderers, the lot. People have gone missing here, you know. Poof, without a trace.
Come now, Miss Jones. Surely it's not that bad.
Have you no eyes? This hospital accepts all manner of souls, regardless of origin. The proper sick cannot heal. We're kept sickened by the refugees.
I'll come and visit you shortly. Good night, Miss Jones.
Bem, este episódio vai ficando por aqui, né? Foi relativamente interessante,
The
embora não...
patients and staff might know something. I'll start my investigation with them.
Obrigado, Jonathan, por me interromperes, mas pronto, como eu estava a dizer, este episódio vai ficando por aqui. Foi um episódio sem, podemos assim dizer, sem ação, né? Mas foi um episódio muito elucidante. Aprendemos aqui bastantes coisas sobre os pacientes, sobre a equipa médica, por isso eu espero que tenham gostado, né? Vamos começar a próxima investigação no próximo episódio. Se gostaram, podem deixar aí o vosso gosto em baixo, né? Podem deixar um comentário. Para o YouTube também começar a promover este canalzito, também merece, né? E então eu vejo-vos no próximo episódio. Fui!